What makes a company truly sustainable? Not just products, not just market positioning. Lasting advantage begins inside the firm, with the resources it owns, the capabilities it develops, the core competencies it refines, and ultimately the dynamic capabilities that allow it to sense, seize, and transform. To win today, firms must execute. To survive tomorrow, they must evolve. This is the architecture that connects present strength with future relevance. RCCD Integrated Model. Let us now consolidate the full theoretical architecture. The RCCD Integrated Model. This model integrates three foundational strategy theories. First, the resource-based view, proposed by Barney in 1991, argues that firm resources become sources of competitive advantage when they are valuable, rare, inimitable, and non-substitutable. Second, core competence theory, developed by Prahalad and Hamel in 1990, emphasizes collective organizational learning as the foundation of strategic differentiation. Third, dynamic capabilities theory, articulated by Teece in 1997 and refined in 2007, explains how firms renew and reconfigure their resource base to sustain advantage over time. Together, these theories form a coherent and integrated system. At the foundation are resources, tangible and intangible inputs, such as infrastructure, capital, data, brand, and talent. When deployed effectively, resources become capabilities, what the firm can do. When capabilities are executed consistently and embedded across the organization, they become competencies, what the firm does well. When those competencies satisfy the VRIN criteria and create meaningful differentiation, they become core competencies. Core competencies generate competitive advantage. However, sustained competitive advantage does not arise from static strengths alone. It depends on dynamic capabilities, the meta capability to sense opportunities and threats, seize strategic initiatives, and reconfigure resources and competencies. Dynamic capabilities operate across the entire system. They renew resources, reshape capabilities, and evolve competencies. Therefore, sustained competitive advantage is not merely the result of strong core competencies. It is the interaction between core competencies and dynamic capabilities. This integrated architecture explains how firms move from assets to advantage, and from advantage to long-term growth. Competitive advantage does not unfold in isolation. It operates within a shifting external environment. Industry dynamics, geopolitical volatility, trade barriers, technological disruption, and regulatory change continuously reshape the conditions under which firms compete. Tariffs can alter cost structures overnight. Geopolitical tension can redraw supply chains. Market volatility can compress margins without warning. Within that environment, the process begins with input, the firm's resource base, assets, capital, knowledge, relationships. But resources alone create no advantage. They must be organized and deployed. Through capabilities, operational strength, functional expertise, and cross-functional coordination, resources are transformed into value-creating activity. From that activity emerge competencies. And when those competencies become distinctive, difficult to imitate, and scalable, they rise to the level of core competencies. Core competencies generate performance outcomes, profitability, growth, market position. Yet the environment does not stabilize. This is why renewal is essential. Dynamic capabilities allow the firm to reconfigure supply footprints, build inventory buffers when necessary, and redesign operating models as conditions evolve. Continuous learning closes the loop. At a structural level, this architecture mirrors the logic of PMP's ITO framework, but at a different scale. IPOR operates at the macro level of the firm. ITO operates at the micro level of the project. The alignment is conceptual, not literal. Resources correspond to inputs. Capabilities correspond to tools and techniques. The execution mechanisms. Competencies and performance outcomes correspond to outputs. Dynamic capabilities correspond to continuous process integration and adaptation. Both models describe a transformation system where value emerges not from possession, but from disciplined deployment and renewal. And when internal strength adapts coherently to external pressure, advantage becomes resilient, not fragile.
All right, so let's talk about what makes the world's most successful companies, well, the best. Today we're going to peel back the layers and look at the secret architecture they use to build advantages that actually last.
So, what's the big secret? We spend so much time looking at a company's cool new product or its clever marketing. But what if the real source of their power, that fortress they build around their business, comes from something way deeper? It's not just about what they sell. It's all about how they're built from the inside out. Okay, let's dive right in. For the longest time, business strategy was basically a game of chess played out in the marketplace. You were always focused on your competitor's next move. But a really powerful idea called the resource-based view completely flips that script. It says the real battle is won from within. And wow, the difference here is huge. The old school way of thinking over on the left is all about the external stuff. What's your market share? What are your competitors up to? But the resource-based view says, hold on a second. True sustainable advantage comes from what you have on the inside, your unique assets, your special skills, basically your company's DNA. It all starts with the absolute basics. Resources. These are just the things a company owns. Now, you've got tangible stuff like factories or cash in the bank, and yeah, those are important, but they're also kind of easy for anyone else to get. The real gold is in the intangible stuff, things like your brand's reputation, your patents, the collective knowledge in your employees' heads. That stuff is way, way harder to copy. But here's the thing, resources are really just ingredients sitting on the shelf. The next step up is a capability. This is the how. It's the company's recipe for taking those resources and actually creating something valuable with them. It's a process, a routine, something that's baked into the culture of how work gets done.
And then at the very top of the pyramid, you have a core competency. This is a company's superpower. It's that special blend of resources and skills that defines who they are and what they do better than almost anyone else on the planet. It's the launch pad for everything they'll do in the future.
So you can see how this all stacks up, right? You start with just owning things, your resources. Then you develop the capability to use them. That grows into a real competency, and finally, you achieve that strategic edge with a core competency. Each level builds on the one before it, creating this incredibly powerful internal structure.
Okay, so you've got all this stuff inside your company. Great, but is any of it actually giving you an edge? How do you know if it's a true strength? For that, we need a test. And luckily, there's a fantastic framework to help us out. This is the VRIO framework, and it's a super simple but really powerful way to audit your internal strengths. It just asks 4 questions in order. First, the V. Is it valuable? Does it actually help you make money or cut costs? Second, the R. Is it rare, or does everybody else have it too? Third, the I. Is it imitatable? Is it super hard for your competitors to copy? And finally, and this is the one people always forget, the O. Is your organization actually set up to take advantage of it? And here's why that order is so critical. Look at this. If your resource is valuable but not rare, you're basically just treading water. That's competitive parity. If it's valuable and rare but super easy to copy, you might get a temporary lead, but it's going to fade fast. It's only when you can say yes to all 4, V, R, I, and O, that you achieve a real, sustained competitive advantage and start seeing those amazing results. But here's the plot twist. In our crazy, fast-moving world, even a so-called sustained advantage can just disappear. The strength that made you a winner yesterday could be totally irrelevant tomorrow. So how do the truly great companies stay on top for decades? Well, they learn to adapt.
This brings us to a really important distinction. On one side, you've got your ordinary capabilities. Think of these as running the business day to day, being efficient, and making a living today. Super important. But on the other side, you have dynamic capabilities. These are all about changing the business, about innovating, so you can win tomorrow. And these dynamic capabilities really come down to 3 key things. First is sensing, being able to peek around the corner and spot new opportunities before anyone else. Second is seizing, moving fast to grab that opportunity and make it yours. And third is transforming, constantly being willing to reinvent yourself and change how your organization works to stay ahead of the game.
So here's the kicker. It's not about choosing between being stable or being adaptive. The absolute best companies manage to do both. They don't become competency prisoners, stuck in their old success. And they don't become capability chameleons, just chasing every shiny new thing. They find this sweet spot called evolutionary coherence, where their rock-solid core strengths give them the foundation to be flexible and adaptive.
All right, enough theory. Let's make this real. How does this architecture actually look in the wild? We're going to start with one of the most dominant companies on the planet right now, NVIDIA. And while everyone's obsessed with their chips, their real competitive advantage is hiding somewhere else entirely. To get a sense of their power, just look at this number. NVIDIA controls something like 80% of the entire market for the chips that are powering this whole AI revolution. I mean, that kind of dominance is not an accident. It's built on a deep, internal fortress.
So, let's put their supply chain through that VRIO test. Is it valuable and rare? Oh, absolutely. Their huge R&D budget and tight-knit partnerships with giants like TSMC are one of a kind. Is it imitable? You bet. The insane complexity of their chip designs is a massive wall for competitors. But the real magic, the secret sauce that connects it all, is the organization. NVIDIA is literally built for speed. They have these interconnected planning models that let them adjust on the fly. It's that organizational agility that weaponizes everything else and turns their supply chain into a nearly unbeatable advantage.
Now let's switch gears and look at a totally different arena, sustainability. For years, companies saw this as just a cost, a box to check. But the smartest firms out there are turning leadership in environmental, social, and governance, or ESG, into a flat-out competitive weapon. Just check out these scores. Companies like Schneider Electric and Brambles aren't just getting nice headlines. They are crushing it on some of the toughest ESG metrics out there. Why? Because they've built their entire strategy around it, and it is paying off big time.
Let's zero in on Brambles. Their entire business is the circular economy in action. They run this massive global network of reusable pallets and containers. So instead of the old use it and toss it model, theirs is all about share and reuse. It completely redesigns supply chains to be way more efficient and way less wasteful.
And their model is a textbook VRIO case study. It's valuable, it saves their customers money, it's rare, this network of 360 million assets is completely unique, it's inimitable, trying to replicate that global scale would take billions of dollars and decades, and it's organized with all sorts of smart tech like IoT and AI to track every single pallet perfectly. This creates this amazing virtuous cycle. The bigger the network gets, the more valuable it is, which makes it even harder for anyone else to compete. See, their focus on sustainability isn't just a side project, it is their competitive advantage.
So after all that, let's bring it all home. We've talked about resources, capabilities, VRIO, dynamic adaptation. What does this all add up to? What is the ultimate architecture for success?
Here it is. The secret to lasting success isn't finding one magic bullet, one killer resource. It's about building what you could call a capability ecosystem, a living, breathing system where your stable, core strengths provide a solid foundation for your adaptive, dynamic capabilities to go out and capture the future. The two work together, feeding off each other.
And that really leaves us with one final big question to think about. When you look at your own company, or the businesses you admire, is their advantage just skin deep, tied to a single product? Or is it rooted in that deep internal architecture we've been talking about? Is their strategy truly built to last, or is it built to fade?
Strategy is not a sequence of isolated decisions. It is a structured system. Resources provide the foundation. Capabilities enable action. Competencies embed performance. Core competencies create differentiation. But enduring advantage requires more. It requires renewal. Dynamic capabilities, the ability to sense change, seize opportunity, and reconfigure the organization, transform strength into sustainability. From assets to advantage. From advantage to long-term value. This is infinite business dynamics.